Hi, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co., and this is our review of Pachamama. This is a game by Sit Down... Oh, wait, sorry. I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co.
I'm Shira.
There we go.
And he's just silent as
usual.
usual.
No, continue. I do it again. I wasn't expecting you to restart. I thought you were just going to go with it.
You can go with stuff.
The reason I froze and paused is because I was going to make a comment on the thing that I then realized he would have cut out by the point he'd started again.
Yeah.
Because I was going to be like, oh no, you just forgot us the first time?
Yeah.
But then I was like, that's too big of an introduction. I went through a whole thing in my head, and then I just was silent.
Are you ready now?
Yeah.
This is all going to be part of it now.
Of course it is.
No!
Hi, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co.
I'm Shira.
I'm Jesse Anderson from Quackalope.
How did you not see that was going to be a part of it?
Why would it be?
This is our review of Pachamama, a game by Sit Down Games. This is, well, I mean, they do a lot of interesting games. They've done Magic Maze, they've done Dive, they have a bunch of games I still haven't played yet that I need to, and this is Pachamama, which is a deduction-based experience. This is going to be similar to, I want to say, if you ever played Search for Planet X, it does remind me of that. It has a lot of those high notes. Any form of general deduction game, it's competitive deduction, to be clear. It's not a cooperative experience. But it's a game where you're trying to deduce the various plots of land that have, well, which plots of lands are there, and then which crops are growing on that plots of lands by following a set of rules of what's allowed to be adjacent to one another, what do you already know it's on the board. The way you like to put it is...
It is the advanced version of Minesweeper.
Yes. Yes. You've played Minesweeper?
I don't know what Minesweeper is.
You've never played any video games,
No.
apparently. None whatsoever. So...
I live a sheltered life.
Yeah. Minesweeper is like one of the basic games on all computers. Like Solitaire and
Oh,
Pinball.
the one with the dots that you have to get the little squares? I didn't know the name, but yes, that was on
Did
the
you
basic
ever
PC.
punch in the dots like with logic, or you just clicked randomly?
I just clicked random.
There we go.
Never
So,
logic.
this is Advanced Minesweeper, which she's never properly played, apparently. But it's a game where...
For her, regular Minesweeper would be advanced
Yes.
Minesweeper.
Yeah, that's true.
Do they still make it? I'd actually like to go play now.
Absolutely.
There is an app for that. Either way, we're diving into Pachamama.
Pachamama, a game of deduction, which you're going to score 3 points 3 different ways. You'll score points as you slowly explore the plots of land, in which you don't need to actually guess what's where, but if you know what's where, you will score more points. You will score points for gathering sets of unique crops, and you'll score more in escalating points for having a variety of different crop types. There's 5 different crops. You want to distinguish, you want to evenly spread yourself out amongst those 5 crop types, and then basically score points for that.
I'm remarkably confused by what you just said, and I've played the game. Listen, in
And
this
then-
game, you're doing your very best to move
I've completely
into...
understood. So if you have a brain like mine or a brain like
To
Jesse...
move into a branching, rolling field, doing your very best to identify what is growing in what location and how big the size of the field is or what the yield of crop will be, scoring you escalating points based off the type or the color of the location you're moving into, and the corresponding size, which you will be predicting and guessing, of the field that you've stumbled across.
Exactly.
That was much more clear to me. I'm glad I said it.
Sure. In any case, that is the general overview of Pachamama. Now, there is a gameplay over on his channel. You can check that out. To be very clear, it is very much an introduction game. Like, the actual game here goes all the way to that size field. You'll have a whole bunch of crops. When you play on a smaller board, you're playing with a whole lot less going on, especially by the very nature of the way everything slowly collapses on itself and things become clear as opposed to really having to deduce. And then lastly, before we cover what we liked and didn't like, the game doesn't work with an app. There may be an app, I don't even know, it's possible, but the game primarily works with this little interesting tool where you're going to slot in various cards that give you the setup, give you the perfect information, because there is only one answer on this board, and then as you navigate around the board, you start looking out to see what crop type shows up where, and then moving around and then trying to predict what crop type and what field type show up in different locations by utilizing these 2 slides and figuring it out. So it works brilliantly, no app involved. And with that, let's go into what we like, didn't like, and can see others not liking about this game. And I guess I'll start, because the last few times I've done this, I keep throwing it to the 2 of you. I like a bunch of things about this game. Yes, that was very eloquent.
Solid start. There
I
we
like
are.
a few different things. I like the fact that the scoring in this game is done a few different ways. I like the fact that you kind of are faced with this puzzle of not necessarily needing to always predict things, but if you can predict things, moving up. I like the degree of information that presents itself. There's a puzzle going on in this game. There's a puzzle that's always just enough information where it's not about being able to immediately do things. Rather, it's about knowing where to send your people, because your people are going to be wandering around these boards as you go, and sending to the various locations may not even be what you necessarily want, but start down that pathway of a logic puzzle where you can say, if I go there, it's probable that that's there, and then if I do deduce that it's that color, then that will give me the information I need to be able to make that guess. There are lots of little daisy chaining pieces of information that are presented in the game as you go through it. And I also love the fact that this is in the game. I love this tool. I love what it does. I find it so much more accessible than an app. I find that when you're playing deduction games that have an app, I find myself looking at screens, and I don't feel like I'm playing with players. This game really makes me feel like I'm playing with players, which means to the last thing before I let the two of you have an actual word in. This is a bit of an interesting one because I can see this being a problem for other people. I like the fact that this feels almost collaborative, even though it's competitive. You're sitting at the table and you're constantly saying, well, this has to be there, that has to be there, but we're all talking out loud. When we really should be keeping that information to ourselves, but it ends up
I'm sitting there going, that one has to be there, you're right about that.
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Yes.
Just continue, please.
It has a degree of always being involved in the game as you go through what is possibly not the most efficient way to play the game, but feels like a collaborative discovery of this land.
And it's fun to listen to someone solve, and it's also fun when you can't make the decision, like you can't move your meeple to the place, but you're so rooting for the person to be right in what they just deduced, because your math's also based off of their math, and you're not hurting each other necessarily. You're just like, that one has to be blue. Go do it. Blue,
Please,
red. What
please.
just happened?
Yeah. I like that collaborative, the competitive nature that you want to get your sets to try and get sacrifices.
Yeah.
You want to get those sets, so you're trying to get to the 5, the 4, the 3, the 2. Like, I remember I was like, you took the last 2. I cannot get a set of 5. I'm going to be going then for the highest points. So that's why I needed the 5, but also 5 was 5 points. I like that you...
Yeah, and my issue, by the way, I totally misread that because I knew I needed a 2 and a 5, and so I was like, oh, I found the 2, I'll go there, forgetting for a second that there's only one 5,
There's only one other
and
5.
I should have gone for that first.
So I like how you also sometimes purposefully put your meeples on other locations, knowing someone else is going to say something and hope that they say something before you. Like, if there's 2, sometimes you're down to 2 spots that can be one or the other. You're hoping one person has done something in that area that will illuminate which... Yeah, so I do like how we talk it out loud. There's some moments where I'm like, I'm going to keep this quiet because I don't want to point out that there's only one 5 left and you need a 5 too.
Well, and it definitely has that. That's the thing. It's not a cooperative game. It's a game where you're simultaneously keeping information to yourself and sharing information. You're sitting there watching Jesse make a guess, and Jesse's like, "That's got to be a 2," and you're like, "Uh huh." It's not a 2.
Yeah,
It's not
yeah.
a 2.
You're watching someone. Like, you don't correct people when they mistakenly guess, but you hope when they guess that it'll help you. They're guessing correctly.
Yeah, it has that weird combination. It's not a semi-co-op, to be very clear. This is not a semi-co-op. It's a competitive game where just sometimes you end up talking out loud because you get sucked into the experience.
Yeah, I like that feel of like it's a game. You feel like you're playing with people. It's not. Yeah, it's a unique feel.
Yeah. Anything else?
I think the biggest thing for me that we haven't gone over, because yes to everything we've already talked about, but I really love the utilization of luck in this, and you briefly went over this, but the nature of pushing forward and taking a gamble is usually a risk that pays off until the very end of the game, until you're guessing fields, right? At the very start, you're just trying to sequence your colors, and it's a difference of a few points, but oftentimes you're also just pressuring the board. You're making good tactical decisions, but if it doesn't pay off in your favor, it still usually rewards you in one way or another, and you can usually adapt to how that luck or whatever just happened in that luck. It makes a game that feels like you're constantly trying to solve an unknown problem until you have perfect information, escalate in a way that doesn't feel negative when the board doesn't work in your favor. There was almost never a moment in the few games that I've seen and played so far where I felt like the board specifically and purposefully hurt me. Instead, I felt like it changed the puzzle for me and surprised me. And those were good feelings, as opposed to what they could be, where it feels like the board just ripped out my victory.
Which I think is a great tangent to what we don't like, because that's going to be the first thing I don't like with the game. I don't love the fact that sometimes it does come down to simply guessing. Sometimes it comes down to just knowing that something is that crop or that crop, and now I just have to guess and hope for the best.
Yeah, coin flip.
It's a coin flip. It doesn't feel rewarding. To me, the reward of the game is the finding the puzzle of specifically not just looking at a spot and saying, well, inherently we have this information, we know that's that. That's a little too simple. It's a step back from that. It's a step of knowing, well, if I go here and find that it's a blue crop, then I know these other 3 pieces of information. So it's about seeing a step removed and deducing. When it comes down to the coin flip, which sometimes it does,
Sure.
I find that less rewarding either way.
And I disagree that it doesn't matter. There was a point where I went somewhere and instead of getting 1 point, I could have gotten 3 points. I would have tied in first place. 2 points does make a difference in the scheme of things.
So you all are hitting on the fact that there is luck here that still matters
Yes.
to some degree. There is at times a coin flip. There is at times moments where the puzzle is changed or the area that you went to just wasn't the 5-point tile, it was the 1-point tile, and that can change the outcome of the game. However, I do find more often than not those puzzle pieces are positive interactions I have with the board that are surprising, that change, that do involve luck, but they don't typically feel bad to me. However, on the part that we don't like, they can feel bad.
That's my only thing I don't like, by the way. I don't know if you have anything
Only
or
thing
you have
you don't
anything.
like.
I only have one particular. That's the one particular aspect. Yeah.
I don't like the coin flip. That sometimes happens.
Interesting. The most lackadaisical moment of the game for me is the point at which perfect information is on the board, which is usually about 15 tiles, which is sad for a game because I love the middle of it so much. The end game kind of ramps down, and I find it to be like, I just kind of want to fast forward. I want to press a big button and be like, you get 5, you get 10, you get 6. We know it's perfect information now. Let's play the next game. Like, let's go to the next puzzle. Let's do the middle part again. I don't know how to make that better, though. With a game like Minesweeper, there is usually a tipping point where you have enough information on the board that's accessible to everyone that you sort of just escalate. Now, I have seen games where it was still a coin flip at the last couple guesses, which also arguably could not only be a ramp down, but also not feel good, you know.
So I agree with you on the ramp down. I do agree that it does. The game has a slow start, which is fine. It works fine. A very, very, very rewarding mid game, and then a slightly declining end game.
Yep.
To its credit, the end game I find you're talking about the last 5 to 10 minutes of the game, but it definitely does ramp down slowly and give you a little less experience.
It's the part of the movie that I don't care to watch.
Yeah, it's
because
like, okay,
we've
fine,
found
the
out
hero
who
found the
murderer
girl,
was. Yeah.
the murderer is that
figured it
person.
out.
I like the happy ending. I like knowing they go off and have children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren and they're two old people sitting by the fire in cozy hearth chairs reading books.
So do you like the end game here, where it's like, I know everything, let me just do it now?
Yes, and then I get a bunch of points. It's like you've planned, you've prepared, and now you're reaping all the rewards. I don't find that end game disappointing.
Cool.
Interesting. There isn't a lot more to hit on here.
Well, I mean, as far as I can see, others not liking in terms of things that might be a problem for you. I had something a second ago
I've
and
got one.
completely blanked.
I've
What's
got a
yours?
major one, which I don't know if I can fairly critique yet, but there is the concept of this game of knowing of the puzzle too much. There's 20-something scenarios in the base game.
That was it. Thank
and
you.
there's a strong chance that if you've played one scenario with a game group, especially if the puzzles are subdivided into player counts, like let's say there's 6 puzzles for 2 players, 4 puzzles for 4 players, 3 puzzles for 6 players.
There's not.
But I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like, hypothetically.
There are a few puzzles that are more suited for smaller player counts, but the vast majority of the puzzles are going to be suited for any player count.
Either way, hypothetically, there's a scenario where you've played this game enough that you know where green, yellow, and orange match up in this color sequence in your head, and that takes the fun out of it. The fun is very much in the discovery aspect of the game.
Yes.
How they fix that is simply just more math, more dials, more variables, more expansions, more packs, and the game's good enough that I think I hope it'll warrant that. But you could find between waiting for your base game and the expansion or upgrade kit or something that you get down the road, you could find a lull where you've played 20 games and you don't know if you need to do again.
And I think it's especially true because this is the kind of game where I kind of will sit down and play it and then be like, and let's do it again. And let's do it again. I can see myself playing 3 games in one night easily because it's a fun little puzzle. And that means if you play 3 games...
6 game nights later,
you're like, okay, great, I need a break. And I think you'll forget things, by the way. Like, even going back to, like, my first puzzle, which I played, like, a week and a half ago, I forget most of it. But I am worried a bit about the muscle memory of, oh yeah, that worked out like that. So I think you might need a year between playing a scenario and playing it again. I don't know the perfect number there. A year is a safe number in my head.
My concern is memorizing about 20% of the board, because 20% of the board is enough to sway the entire game.
Yeah.
And that's not that much, honestly. It's just muscle memory of, oh yeah, the green, it surprised me. It was such a good moment. It surprised me because it was a red, not a green.
Correct.
And I don't forget that.
Exactly.
The nature of good moments
is they stick with you.
Yeah.
But again, keep in mind, this game's going to have something like 20 plus puzzles. It's on GameFound, by the way. I believe if you back it on GameFound, you get an extra puzzle or 2. Prototype, by the way. I don't think I said that. Prototype and all that. But yeah, if you get those 22, 23 puzzles, the good news is how many games in your collection do you actually play 22, 23 times?
None. Not a one.
The bad news is if this ends up being one of those, you might find yourself running out eventually.
The one thing I don't like, and it's a really easy problem to fix, I don't like the aid that this gives you. Seeing how many tiles are left gives you a lot of information. And I don't like that. I think I would want to just put out all the tiles that come in the box.
I wonder if you could. I'd have to take a look at the way the setup works. Whether for sure you can do it if you have a separate person set it up for you. That's for sure. If you have someone involved in the game setting it up, I have to take a look whether that's even possible.
They might see the information.
Yeah, because there's definitely a setup aspect. I think you probably could cover it. You probably.
I actually like the information that gives.
I could argue both ways.
But, I don't. I just found it like, okay, there's no more... Like, as soon as mid-game, we realized we had put out too many tiles. We took them off, and I was like, oh, well, there's goes blue. There's no more blues on the board. I kind of got discouraged because, like, some of the colors mattered at that point.
Yeah, now I understand your concern, and I don't disagree with it. I think it matters more when we're playing on the smaller map. On the larger map, that extra information is almost essential sometimes. Yeah. But I'm pretty sure, thinking about how the tiles work, I'm pretty sure you can just cover before you set up, cover the top part, and then go ahead with the map setup. So I think you could play it either way if you wanted that extra challenge, so to speak. But yeah, which brings
I said it was an easy problem to fix, but that was just the one.
Which brings us to rating and final thoughts for this game. Sure, you first this time.
Oh, me first?
You hate going first.
I hate going first. I really am enjoying this game. All the times I have played it have been really rewarding. The ease to teach, the accessibility, the simplicity, yet intricacy. I have to say it's a 5 out of 5 for me.
Really?
I like this, and I will be upset if either of you do not start to don't love it.
For context, like 5 minutes before we started this video, she was talking about how, like, I don't give a 5 out of 5s anymore as often. Apparently.
I really was saying that because, like, a bunch of reviews, I haven't given out a 5.
You've been more careful with them.
I've been more careful and selective now that I'm doing this
You're doing
a lot more frequently.
You're giving out more reviews.
I'm giving out more reviews, and I'm playing a lot more games, and I'm being selective. It enchanted me the first time I saw it being played. I saw you guys. I was like, "What are you doing?"
You actually stole someone's seat, if I remember correctly.
I kicked you out of your game. I like the mental puzzle. I like it a lot. It's solid, and I was even saying, I was like, I want all in. Like, I'm gonna go hunt it down.
Oh, I don't begrudge you the 5. I'm not there. For myself, this is a 4 to 5. I really enjoy it. Rating scale in the description down below, but 4s and 5s are good ratings for context. Yeah. But I really enjoy this. I enjoy deduction games to begin with. I find, specifically going back to what I didn't like in this, my biggest problem with some deduction games is that they can devolve to a little too much guessing within the deduction. I like the fact that it's very infrequent here. It happens, but it's very infrequent. I also really like the fact that there's not an app. Deduction games with an app, I just find it really, when I'm like, again, no disrespect for Search for Planet X, which is a great game, but like I find myself when I'm playing Search for Planet X with another person, I kind of feel we're playing 2 separate games. When we're playing a Pachamama, even though it goes almost against the strategy of the game, the collaborative nature of feeling like we're all involved in the puzzle really adds to the experience for me. The reason it's not a 5, a 4 for me is generally just something shy of a 5 for one reason or another. It's mostly going to come down to the fact that it does feel very much like a one-trick pony. It does one thing really, really well, but doesn't do anything else. I'm curious if they had other modules or things that mix up the experience. I'd be very fascinated. That could easily push it up. As long as it's a one-trick pony, what it's doing, it does incredibly well. I really enjoy it. It is the kind of game where I'm going to sit down a game night and play 3 games in a row because I just want to. But yeah, solid 4 to 5 for me.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. It's a 4, and potentially bridging down to like a 3.8 or something like that. It's a really solid game, but the nature of it doing its one thing excellent makes me question if I'm tired of it in 5 or 10 games, or if I want to replay a scenario. How much does it stand up? And I'll still play with you.
Thank you.
And I need the finished version to tell.
That is the one concern that I have about replayability. But we're saying it comes with 20.
That's what I'm saying. I need the final game to tell. I need to get it to the table a few more times. I need the box where I can open up and just kind of see any number of scenarios and be surprised by what I'm presented with. If scenarios start feeling similar, right, or start getting to a point where I can very easily start predicting or sequencing and understanding how the math of the game just sort of works, then the game stops having as much of the charm. Yeah. Where right now the puzzle is new and fresh and inviting. At a certain point, I think the puzzle might be
pattern recognition.
You're
like, okay, I played this. Okay, great. That's a 4. That's a 3. That's going to be a 5 over there. That's a green tile there. I can see that happening. I can absolutely see that.
And so that's my concern. That's why it's at that 3.
I haven't played Minesweeper that much, so I can't see that happening. I'm curious though.
That's why it's at like a 3.84 for me.
I don't begrudge you for being at a 5. I think this game is incredible at what it does. I am mostly giving my rating, projecting towards where I think this game will be after another 5 plays.
It's just funny because usually you give a rating based on what it is with hopes for the future, not.
Well, no. With hopes for the future. I usually give a rating with the context of where I think my experience is going to bridge, which sometimes means I'm taking a 4 and going to a 5 because I'm pretty sure in 5 games it's mind-blowing. This one, I'm at a 4, but I'm not...
With concern.
I'm at a 4 with concern, right? I'm at a 4 with the idea that it could lock itself in there and be a staple. Or with the idea that, like, I might get tired of it. I might. But I'll love the process to get there.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. I think it's a reasonable concern. I don't think I'm as concerned. I think I have that concern 12 to 15 plays in, but
Even a game that gives you 12 to 15 plays
Incredible.
is amazing, and that's why it's still at a 5 for me.
Cool.
Yeah.
It's fun. I haven't been concerned anytime we've played it
I
out.
I haven't had fun in a long
and I've asked to pull it out. Like, I've wanted to say, when are we reviewing it? When are we playing it next? Because we were saving this gameplay so that it would be fresh on camera. And I'm like, but I want to play it.
Because the game, our prototype came with limited scenarios, so we played through the first 2, and we're like, we only have 1 left, we need to save it for the camera.
It's actually kind of entertaining and disappointing, because here's the thing. I guarantee if during the campaign they sent us, like, another update dial or something...
In a second.
We would do in advance, like, in a second, because we're all excited to play it, and all a little bit disappointed that all we have is 3 scenarios, which we've already played, and we can't play anymore.
Yeah.
And the third one's more of the tutorial or intro scenario, which just felt a little bit of a...
take that with a grain of salt. All of us are leaving this prototype going, oh, come on, that's all you gave us?
Yeah.
I do also want to see a solo mode. I want
there's
to
a solo
see...
mode. There's a solo mode.
Is there a solo
mode?
mode?
Even here. We haven't played the solo mode, but even this prototype comes with a basic solo mode.
A tabletop version of a Minesweeper, just tabletop that I can do on my own, sounds delightful.
Yeah, I haven't read the rules for the solo mode. There is a little AI player that moves around, gives you a slightly different puzzle.
Interesting.
I haven't felt the need to dive into it, but if you want that, it definitely does. If he stops playing it, and if I am busy, it definitely exists. But yes, in any case, that's our review of Pachamama, currently on GameFound. Link in the description down below. Until next time, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co.
I'm Shira.
And I'll think of something to say.
And have a good one.